All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to your next session. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Let us know where everyone is from. My name is Brad Messner, and I'm actually from just outside of Pittsburgh. I'm actually in Pittsburgh at the moment. I had to work downtown today. So, welcome, everyone. Hopefully, I don't know about you all, but the weather's been beautiful here in Pittsburgh the last 2 days. So, hopefully, you get to experience some of that. Oh, I see a Bloomsburg, PA. I know exactly where that's at. So, I am going to actually go ahead and get started because there's a lot of content that I want to talk through in our next half hour session here. I usually do sessions that are about 2 to 3 hours. So we have a lot that we're going to cover, and I want to make sure that we get through it all. So as we work through, please honestly throw in any questions you have. I will work as hard as I can to get any of the questions answered. But our session for this time slot is security tips for the growing firm. And I wanted to shift and design this topic around increased security doesn't have to frustrate clients. Because if you're like me, you've probably dealt with some clients and you get pushback anytime you hint or mention the word security, or you see the eyes of panic. And I wanted to say, as we're focusing with Workflow Con on how we grow and how we operationally reshift and focus our firms, I really wanted to think, how can we do this with security? Because it's really fun with automation. It's really fun with a lot of other tech topics and with technical topics. But security tends to be that one that isn't a lot of fun. It isn't a lot of sexy because it's a lot of compliance. So I wanted to spend the time today talking through that. And this is in the accounting specific genre that we're talking through today. So hopefully you're in the right place. And hopefully you are actually having a really, really good time so far here at Workflow Con. So if you have not had a chance to meet me in the past, I do speak at a lot of different conferences and a lot of different events. I do have a very mixed background. I am a third generation owner of Messner and Fox. We actually recently just renamed. It was M&J Tax Service before that. So I do have 28 years of experience, and I am the firm's first enrolled agent. I am very tax focused. Please do not do the math on that because I just do not want to think about what that implies. But I was also the 2023 NATP Tax Professional of the Year. I spent a lot of time working with organizations. I believe there's a lot of power in us as accountants and tax professionals and bookkeepers and so forth, all coming together to drive our industry forward, which is why I'm just so excited to be speaking here. I am also a professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and I teach specifically in the topics of information security and cybersecurity. So I have a really nice overlap between security as well as tax and accounting. And that's why I just love this myriad. And I am one of the founders of Financial Guardians, which is a firm that focuses on helping accountants with their cybersecurity needs. So what we're going to be working on today, we're going to be just defining why is cybersecurity critical, just a couple minutes on that. The challenge between clients and security. I think that is the hardest challenge that we overcome on a daily basis. And then the challenge of a growing firm. What challenges do we have as a growing firm with how we leverage security? And then finally, we're going to round off with the big item, and we're going to look at some tips at how we can improve our client interactions and actually turn them from being fearful or creating anxiety when we're talking about security to actually having clients rely on us as this tier of expertise or understand that we're looking out for their best interest without it just being a slap in the face. You have to do this. Not sure who all is on the call, but one of my biggest struggles, I think, is I see how the banking industry works. And I feel like sometimes there's so many missed opportunities there because they just roll something out and there's no education, there's no marketing, there's no push other than you now have to do this. And I feel like that's really taken us back a couple steps as we'll move forward, talking through how we can improve this overall message. So this is our agenda today, which brings us to our first point of why is cybersecurity critical? And hopefully we don't have to spend a lot of time here, because I believe we probably all think in 2024 that this is an important topic. And we'll see a couple examples here in a moment that really ring true of why we have to take this topic serious. Last year, and we don't have 2024 numbers yet because we're still in it, but 43% of small businesses were believed to have experienced a data breach. Now, again, a data breach doesn't mean some malicious person from some foreign entity was trying to hack into a firm in New Stanton, Pennsylvania. This could be, oops, I inadvertently emailed a document. I inadvertently uploaded the wrong document to the wrong client's folder. It really means that information was shared with an individual who was not authorized to see it. This happens very frequently, and as we can see, 50% of small businesses had some form of breach last year. The average cost, this number still blows my mind. Oh my gosh, every time I see this, because I do help with mitigation. So I actually got a text this morning from a tax professional down south, and she had a breach. So I have a call with her in a few moments, and we're going to be talking through mitigation. But on average, it takes about $4.3 million to recover from a breach. Now, that does not mean that everyone is going to experience that. For example, we had a small breach in our firm this past year. We unfortunately had let an employee go, and that employee had shared information that they were not permitted to share. So we cannot always control the human factor, but obviously in our world, it did not cost us $4.5 million to fix. But I did go down and work with a firm just outside of DC this past fall, and they're probably going to be in the realm of $15 to $20 million in mitigation expenses. So this really is a very hot topic if the negative happens. And we're going to focus on how to reduce that negative today, rather than focus on, oh my gosh, let me go into panic mode with this. And yeah, Jonathan, that it happens quite frequently, where you go to type and you type John, and it goes to the wrong John, and without thinking, you accidentally send that. So it happens pretty frequently. And finally, 80% of organizations, this is the mind-blowing part to me, that had a breach had a written policy in place, and they failed to implement it correctly. So that is really one of the key messages that we're going to end the discussion with today at the very end. Is it's not just about having these things, it's about implementing them correctly. And that's really the key message that we want to get out there. But again, increased importance. The threats are real. I get hit with this all the time. Well, I think these are just made up messages. These are just made up stories. Here's some news headlines. Intuit was sued after hackers stole crypto. Tesla, I owned a Tesla for about 10 months. This blows my mind. A company over in the Asia region was able to hack the Tesla operating system in under 2 minutes. And there are people out there driving vehicles that have this level of security in place. So the threats are real. We are not just the ones being targeted. We see Target. I think everyone heard about the Target breach a couple years ago. There's a very large breach with Lowe's. We're not the only ones being targeted. We have a heightened requirement through the FTC safeguards that we have to comply with, but we are not the only ones being targeted. And what this really comes down to is, when we're looking at cybersecurity, and this is really where we could sit down and have a 4-hour discussion just on this one slide, is we are looking at the cybersecurity triad. And this is a slight adjustment for accounting and financial services. So we have the CIA, compliance, implementation, and audit. Under compliance, these are items that we are required to have or do. We are all required to have a WISP or a written information security plan. That's a requirement for anyone in financial services. Also under compliance, we're required to have some form of data breach or cyber breach insurance. We're also required to have a tier or level of understanding. So we can't just sit there and throw our hands up and be like, I just don't get this. I'm going to plead ignorance. Pleading ignorance is no longer a possibility. The FTC safeguards rule requires that we understand at a base competency level these topics. And Dana, absolutely. I got one the other day too. Maybe not the same firm, but my healthcare provider also notified me of a breach. And Shannon, exactly. As a payroll firm, huge target because you have the information that can literally destroy lives. You have the information that if that data is stolen, secured social security numbers, payroll information, birthdays, addresses, financial information, if that data is stolen, it can drastically negatively impact lives. Under implementation, so we see it's not just about having the compliance, we have to truly implement this. We have to be training our staff. We have to properly manage our clients. And we're going to expand upon that in our last area about the tips to improve. And we are required to have a breach management policy in place. And that will be the last tip of how we can create that. And the last one is audit. And this does not mean a financial audit. This means we have to regularly review our policies. We have to go through with updates and make sure that we're performing proper maintenance on our systems. So if you just remember CIA, that's really the focus we need on why is cybersecurity important. We have compliance needs, we have implementation needs, and then we have audit needs. Everything cybersecurity wise falls into that bucket. Shannon, absolutely. The IRS actually did have a breach. They handled it very accurately. They notified the large group. They notified the individuals who were impacted, and unfortunately, those type of events do happen. All right, so this brings us to the ugly part of our discussion, and this is where sometimes I'm a little glad that we do these things by webinars because I would have rotten fruit thrown at me sometimes, but I think we all get that our clients are our biggest challenge when it comes to security. The real question we need to ask ourselves is, do our clients care? For starters, they typically don't understand technology, and especially the security side. I have a lot of friends that they're whizzes at tech, but when we get to the needs of security, they really don't know how to put those pieces together. So from a client side, they really don't understand. So it's not a matter sometimes that they don't care. It's that unknown that they're unaware of. Many view it as a hurdle. And this, I think, is the challenge. They deal with banks. They deal with credit card companies. Oh my gosh, I just tried buying a house. I pulled out at the last minute after the inspection, but the amount of information they needed. And every time I needed something, I was getting text messages from my underwriter. And then I got an email, and then I got just the amount of information. It was such a hurdle just to get through the approval process. And clients view security in that same way. Every time they go to log on to their bank, they now get a text message with a 6-digit code to authenticate. So unfortunately, because the messaging hasn't been there previously, they've created this mental hurdle of, I really just don't want to deal with this. We're actually going to get there in the next slide, Catherine. You're like 3 minutes ahead of me here. I absolutely think if you say the term multi-factor authentication, you will have someone curse at you. You will have someone throw something. It has become such a negative connotation because it adds an extra step for them to accomplish what they need to do. So our clients are getting frustrated. Their previous accountant just didn't require it. Their previous accountant or their neighbor's accountant, they just don't need this. So they don't understand why we are asking for it. It's the same idea of, well, I talked to my neighbor's barber and they said I can write this off, or they said I can handle everything through that specific account. We know the struggle our clients are going through. Unfortunately, we have to find ways that we can hurdle around those. And right to Catherine's point here, I'm sure my data is already out there. So what does it really matter? If you've not heard this from a client yet, be prepared. It is on the way. You are going to hear this at some point. My response to them this is, I can't prove it is out there. I don't want to add anything more to it. And I am legally required to comply with these obligations. So I just need to be able to do things the right way. And hopefully, if you have clients that care about doing things correctly, they understand that point. They may not always be happy. But we'll talk again in a couple minutes how we can wordsmith and talk through some of these key points. The next concern outside of clients is as we grow, our mind starts going in 30 different directions. You wake up and when you used to be able to enjoy your coffee, for years, I did a French press. I love the freshness I feel that comes from a fresh press, you know what I mean, coffee. I just don't have time anymore, so I'm defaulting to K-cups. As our firms grow, we're embarking on new challenges. And growth is a good thing, but we need to appreciate that with these items come some new challenges. With this growth comes something new. And I do see a couple questions coming in. I will address all the questions here in a couple moments. I want to get to the tips and then we'll answer all the questions. So if you do have questions, please throw them in the Q&A. I will make sure we get them answered before we end ways today. But in a lot of cases, as we're undergoing this rapid growth, we don't consistently execute smoothly our ideas. A good example of this is think back to 2020. If you had a firm that was a little more in person, or maybe you had an actual physical office, think about the transition you had to go through to become virtual. Were things missed? I can guarantee and promise things were missed. It was just these growing pains of, I have so many things I have to do, not everything is going to go smoothly. So how can we use security to reaffirm to our clients that we got their back? Firms deploy new technology out of necessity or excitement, and they don't always review the configuration. I do a lot of audits over the summer. Firms will bring me in and say, come in and have at it. We want to know where we're broken. This is the number one area I see, is a lot of firms deploy new technology and they don't go through the proper configuration of setting it up, designing it, configuring it, and so forth. So those are two of the big items under growth being a concern. And the third one is new clients bring new demands. And in some cases, those demands don't line up with our policy. I unfortunately had to release our largest client. And I'll share it here. The client brought us in about 20 to 25,000 a year. I had to release them because they did not want to comply with our requirement. And they consistently wanted to try to email us documents with PII and documents that were outside of our allowable email attachments. So unfortunately, we did have to part ways, even as we were growing and we relied upon that income to grow. So yes, growth is a good thing, But as we grow, we do need to really focus on how can we grow effectively, how can we grow efficiently, and my big one, how can we grow securely? So it's effectively, efficiently, and securely. Which brings us to our main focus here of how can we improve our clients' interactions and turn the fold of security. And I'm going to take a couple minutes, answer a few questions, and then I will come back and do the tips here. So first question that came up, what are your thoughts on scanning QR codes? If it's from a known source and it's a verified source, I'm fine with that. We actually just sent out a letter announcing our name change to our clients, and we included a QR code at it. I will not scan a QR code in public. I will not scan a QR code that is, say, at a conference or an event. If I don't know the true original origin of the QR code, I won't scan it. I exhibit at some conferences. I've always said I actually want to just create and throw out some QR codes that just take someone to a fake landing page saying that they are in the process of being hacked and to report to booth, whatever booth I am, for mitigation efforts. Because a lot of people do scan QR codes, and it's a very powerful, easy way to get access to the information we need. But it does propose risks if we don't know the source. Have you ever seen one of your clients experience a security issue? Absolutely. I get probably 3 to 4 phone calls a week with clients who have some form of security breach. Now, keep in mind, may not be a huge breach, but we have seen those come up. I usually get called, I'd say the big ones happen maybe once every 2 to 3 months. And by big ones, I mean where there's more than 20 to 30 clients that are impacted, or there is larger than $100,000 of expenses. So it absolutely does crop up. Where can we find an outline of a WISP so that we can build one instead of from nothing? Excellent question, Catherine. If you actually go to irs.gov, and even if you're not a tax professional, if you're an accountant, or if you are bookkeeper, any form of financial service, go to irs.gov and just search for WISP, and they have a template right there. Now, I will give you the pushback. It is a very rough template. It will probably take 20 to 30 hours of a very specific skill set to customize it to your firm. But it's a good place to start, and it's a better place to start than from scratch. So that is absolutely the place I would go. All right, we're going to hop back into our tips. There are a few more questions that I will get to before the end. I just want to make sure we get our tips in place here. All right, tip number 1. This, honestly, I can't tell you how powerful this one is, and it's just one that we forget to do. Just regular communication. I know in our firm, we do bookkeeping, we do payroll, we do tax, we do a ton of tax planning. We become that person that our clients rely upon. They don't have an attorney that they talk to frequently. They may have a financial advisor, but they sometimes a lot ask us for referrals or recommendations. So we become that person that they reach out to. So first tip is integrate security into all of your regular communications. So what does this mean? If you send out a monthly newsletter, throw a security tip or security corner in the bottom corner of it. Give them tips and examples of here's something to watch out for with phishing emails. Here's a way to protect your identity if you believe you've been a victim of, say, a phishing attack, which is a voice-based phishing attack. Or what we do in our firm, we actually send out a quarterly security update. It's just a brief, maybe 3 or 4 paragraph update talking about the things that have happened in the last quarter that they need to watch out for and that they need to be aware of. So first one, just make it a regular conversation point. Don't hide behind. Make it a common thing so that they just look forward to, oh, here is how I can respond to phishing. Here is how I can handle a certain attack if I think my account has been compromised. Number two, I get pushback on this all the time, but honestly, invest in the proper security tools, invest in the proper technology. A lot of us love using the free or low cost solutions. To be honest, those are not always going to have the proper security, and they're not always going to be the easiest to use. There's an e-signature platform that's very low cost. It is a struggle and challenge for clients to use. So we rolled away from that purely because our clients weren't effectively using it. If the tool is intuitive, this is a really powerful statement. Clients complain less. You won't hear about security if the tool is easy to use. 64% less likely to get a complaint if the tool is well designed. Selecting leading tools. Again, find the tool that works, find a tool that is effective. And to be honest, I know they're the sponsor here, but that's one of the reasons why I do really love Financial Sense is it makes it so easy. You don't even recognize that they're applying security behind the scenes at every step. So tip number two, don't just go for the cheap low-end tools. Find the tool that fits your firm and fits exactly what your needs are. What suggestions do I have for firms considering using offshore labor? As long as you have the proper disclosures and allowances in place. I'm not a personal huge fan of it. I know a lot of folks do it, but just make sure if you're going to be leveraging offshore that you do have the proper disclosures and acknowledgments in place for your clients. Additionally, tip number three, I'm getting really close on time, so I'm trying to leverage questions here with everything else. Integrate security related services. I love this one so much. This one actually gets me excited. Find an identity management service, like a Trust Guard, Identity Guard, something along those lines that can become a revenue generation. Resell identity management to your clients. Again, they don't have anyone else out there looking out for them. For the cost of $6 to $7 or $8 a month, you can charge them $10 or $15 or $20 a month, get a side revenue stream for just giving them that reassurance. And you're becoming that go-to person. You're becoming that trusted advisor for your clients when all you're really doing is just giving them access to a resource. This is one of my favorite examples of how you can connect and work with your clients. Make sure that you provide or give them the opportunity for this. The fourth tip, automate as much as you can. Anytime we add automation, we're reducing those manual steps. If I don't have to type something, I don't have to think about it. If I don't have to go to a client and ask, reduces the overall effort. This year, we automated our extension process. We filed 412 extensions in our firm. Every one was handled completely through automation, including communicating with the client, receiving permission to file the extension, calculating it, and moving on. The accuracy level was within 2 to 3% of the correct result. The previous year with our human intervention, we were more in the 70 to 80%. So we were very, very close to accurate with that automation in place. And our final tip here, create better documents. Don't just hide your security in place. Look at your privacy policy, your engagement letters, your security plan, brand them. Create marketing documents out of them. Don't just throw words and don't do word vomit onto a screen. Make it documents that your clients want to read. If a document is visually appealing, I love this stat, it's 9.4 times more likely to get read. So tip number 5 is to create better documents. Bring in marketing, bring in all of that. And I will, as long as people can give me another moment or two here, I will answer a couple more questions. Does your firm have a policy that an employee must notify you if an email is sent to the wrong recipient? we actually have a policy very strongly in place where we don't email any documents. We actually limit the ability for email as much as possible. We use an online portal system and we try to communicate as much through that as we possibly can. So we greatly, drastically try to reduce email because email just creates, going back to that manual intervention, it creates opportunity for manual mistakes. Where do you find security articles for your quarter newsletter? I actually write them. I'm not sure I'm allowed to self-promote or anything, but if you look up Financial Guardians, we have a free membership that you can sign up, and you get a lot of that content, just advising, hits, suggestion, things like that. But I just sit down and write them because I'm part of that world. But if you look, if you browse the IRS, the Security Summit, they have a really good resource. Reach out to your cyber insurance, your data breach insurance. They will absolutely give you some guidelines as well. How did I automate the extension process, Rhett? That is a 4-hour discussion, but honestly, if that is of interest, reach out to me. I will absolutely share that. I don't hide any of my little secrets, little anything like that. But please, I will share that. Let me see. There's a couple other questions here. I think that is about it. So if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, I hope you're enjoying WorkflowCon, and maybe I'll see you in one of the other sessions. Thanks.